In this video from Real Life Reviews, we're going to take a look at the Met Drone Wide Body. And in some respects, this video is all about marginal gains. This is the helmet of choice for pros such as Daniel Tickler-Hammerknott, pro cyclist, and Jan Frodeno, top Ironman. So, okay, they get their helmets for free and they're sponsored, but let's face it, they're not going to ride in a poor helmet. Now, there are plenty of Aero helmets out there on the market, and you'll see lots of different types being ridden by pro riders, both in triathlon and on the pro cycling circuit. But there are two things in my mind that really set this helmet apart. There are lots of other little bits and pieces which we'll go into later, but there are two key things. The first is there is a subtle change in the shape. It's called the wide body, and it does have a much wider shape to it. More about that in a moment. The second thing is the testing that's been done with this helmet leads one to believe that it is actually genuinely quicker than the other helmets on the market. Let's take the latter first. Testing. In 2016, 220 Triathlon took 10 of the best Aero helmets out there and pitted them against each other. Now, I'm not going to pretend I've memorised them. I'm going to put the helmet down, pick up the magazine, and I'm going to read you the list of names. Obviously, there's the Met wide body here, the drone. But the Casque Bambino, the Rudy Project Wing 57, the POC Cerebral, Louis Garneau P09, the Bell Javelin, the Casco Speed Time, Spoyuk Isaiah, the Laser Wasp Air, and the Giro Selector. That's a pretty impressive lineup. And what did 220 do? Well, they used their own objective test. They did an out and back 8-kilometre ride, same bike, 300 watts, in a skin suit, TT type conditions. They also borrowed some wind tunnel data, and then they used basic subjective observations, fit, comfort, ventilation, that sort of thing. Well, the drone came out top on 91%. The next two were 85 and 84, and then there were some pretty big drops. But the data that's probably going to interest most of you out there is the time. And remember, this is on an 8-kilometre course, not very long. The nearest competitor was 6 seconds. 6 seconds slower than the drone. Others, 17 seconds, some of them. It was pretty conclusive. Now let's return back to number one, the wider body. And what this does is it guides the wind, the air resistance, round the shoulders. Now, you genuinely can feel the difference. More to the point, you feel the difference when you wear another helmet. I've got a roughly pretty straight 1 mile road outside my front door, and the prevailing wind goes along that road. If I go out in this helmet into the wind, it's a great helmet. But the real difference is if I put another Aero helmet on, I can genuinely feel the impact on my shoulders. Why hasn't someone thought about this before? So those are the two key sort of arguments as to why you would want this helmet. Let's look a little bit closer at the actual helmet itself. Let's start with shape. We've mentioned the wide body. It's a truncated tail design, and historically, time trial helmets have had a longer tail. This is great if you stay in the perfect position for that helmet, the way you're wearing it on your bike. And track cyclists who are in that position all the time, no problem, it's brilliant. But for a road cyclist running a decent distance time trial, and for the triathlete, you're going to be moving around all the time. Even if you've got an integrated drink system, you're going to be you need to lift your head, you're going to be moving, you're looking, you're not in that perfect TT position all the time. A long tail, doing that, actually creates extra drag. Tipping the head, moving the head, any movement to the side, looking around, you're going to create drag. So the first thing is, it's cut the tail. And a lot of, to be fair, a lot of road helmets now on the TT circuits do the same thing. It's also what's termed a wrap round design, so it tucks under. Again, that's not brand new. Lots of helmets do that. this does it really effectively, and I think you can see just from this angle it does actually tuck under and curve really well. Now, working along with that, it's surprisingly easy to put this helmet on in transition, and my tip, if you ever do get this helmet, is to use the straps and put it on by opening with the straps and onto the head. It goes on nicely and it comes off nicely. No problem there at all. A major problem with a number of Aero helmets is ventilation. So if we look at this one, on the top of the helmet we have 3 ventilation slots, one on the very top and then 2 more here. They're a decent size, but the real bonus with this helmet, we've got a slot in the tail which helps draw and give airflow, but the wider body means you've got a higher volume of air inside the helmet. This is quite simply, even with the visor on, the coolest Aero helmet I've worn, bar none. Perhaps your next concern or question is going to be about the visor. Well, it's a polycarbonate visor with an anti-fog coating, and it does work really well as any other one that I've tried. Obviously you are going to get a bit of fogging if you've done an indoor pool swim, come out of that humid area into transition, it's cold and raining, which happened to me not so long ago, you're going to get a little bit of misting, but it cleared pretty quickly, so I don't have any complaints there. If I do have a small issue with the visor, it's the fit. For a high-end, expensive helmet, it's not perfectly flush all the way around. Perhaps I'm being picky, but compared to a magnetic fit system, it's not quite there. It fits with a couple of clips, one on either side, you can see that one, and it just pushes into the helmet, and you'll see that in a moment. So I'm slightly down on that. Also, this is the clear visor. You can also get a smoked visor with it, but you only get one in the box, and this one came with the clear visor. Again, I think for a high-end helmet, having both visors in the box it's a small thing, especially if you're forking out all those pounds or dollars. Now we have the thorny question of weight, and out come the real life reviews scales. Met claim that the medium, which this helmet is 350 grams, and excuse the angle, but we need it so that we can see the reading. You'll see that if we carefully place the helmet on the scales, we've got 360 grams. That's 10 grams more. Let me tilt the helmet, because you will see we've taken the visor off. So that's 360 grams, 10 grams heavier than they claim. There we are, 360 again, without the visor. Just pulling away a little bit, you can see where the visor pops in, one on one side, one on the other, and it is simply a case of taking the visor and popping it on. So if we return to the scales with the visor on, well, there we go, 391 grams. So we're now 40 or 41 grams heavier than Met claim for the weight of this helmet. Now don't get me wrong, it's still a pretty light helmet, especially for an Aero helmet, but you can draw your own conclusions. If we take a look inside the helmet, the first thing is we've got a really comfortable cage system, which is welded in to the inside of the helmet, so there's no uncomfortable connections, or for that matter anything sort of getting in the way of the airflow on the outside of the helmet. Towards the rear we have a micro adjust dial. That's 2mm per click, and it works really well. It's a little awkward to do whilst on the head, so it's one that you kind of want to get fitted, take it off, adjust it, put it back on, work like that and get it set to how you want. You've also, it's quite difficult to see, but we've also got in here, we've got a 4-stage adjustment where the whole cage can go up or down. The strap itself is Met's Airlight Weave. Met claim it aids sweat evaporation, and it's certainly effective at doing that job. I wouldn't go on record as saying it's any better or any less good than another system, but They do also claim it increases tensile strength and reduces weight. And the buckle system is a normal clip-on buckle that most of you will be used to seeing. There's a lot of really, really good things about this helmet. The airflow is a revolution. It's fit, it's really comfortable, it's got as good a ventilation as I've come across. But I do have a couple of niggles. One I've mentioned, the visor's not the flushest fit you can get. The other is, if you turn it over, on the edges, it's quite sharp. The finish isn't as smooth as I would expect from a top end. And to start with, I thought it was just I'd got my helmet. But I have looked at quite a few forums and some other reviews, all of which have mentioned the same thing. Now, does it get in the way? Actually, no, it doesn't. Because if you do what I said earlier, and you put the helmet on by taking hold of the straps, it's really efficient. Transition, take the straps, don't put it hard, just open it gently, put the helmet on, there we go, and do it up. It goes on a treat, you don't notice the sharp bits, they don't catch you. And the same, taking it off. Having unclipped the strap, just open it slightly, and off it goes. So, yes, it's a niggle. Would it stop me buying one? Well, no, if I was shelling my money out, I would buy this helmet. No shadow of doubt at all. Anything else about this helmet? Well, it does come with a really, really good helmet bag, which you would expect, but for the money. Would I wear this helmet? Yeah, I flipping well would, and yes I do. Do I wear it for everyday rides? Of course not. I've got a bit of a thing about wearing an Aero helmet when you're just going out for a road ride. I'm not going to do that. However, it's there for every triathlon, and it's a really, really good helmet. I think this is, on balance, a couple of niggles, the best helmet that you can get your hands on for an Aero road helmet. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're considering buying this helmet, then there's a link to Wiggle in the description down below. And of course, Real Life Reviews does get a small percentage of anything you spend through that link, which helps keep the channel going. And alternatively, you could pop along to our website where we have a link also to Wiggle and to Treads, who also sell this helmet. If you haven't subscribed, then click on the little picture down here. And if you are into these gains and Aero, maybe you'd like to have a little look at our video on the Zip 404 NSW wheels. Thanks again for watching.